to go with a negative declaration for this, and we base, like I said, everything on the county's general plan. If the housing element doesn't require more housing than what's identified as far as growth in the general plan is, it's generally considered consistent with the general plan, unless, of course, like I said, it results in a revision or a rezoning of land a large amount, which may impact the build-out numbers that are identified in the general plan. In that case, a lot of times it ends up in an EIR. So, in this case, it's a neg debt because 40 units is nothing, and obviously, county's got plenty of land for 40 units, so it shouldn't be a problem.
Is there any further questions? Any questions of the public? Okay, well, thank you. So, what's the pleasure of the board?
Yes.
We need the action is to approve that this draft be sent, and also, do we want to see presentations now, the slide presentation, or do we want to wait till it comes back?
Let's wait till it comes back from the state.
So, make a motion to request the word. So, motion, do you have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Okay. And one no vote. Thank you.
I joined you, but I did that too many times, so I'm just see when they come back with their revised.
Consistency.
I'll wait to the end, right? If they haven't made good, then we'll probably do that.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's take up the item H5, Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority.
Chairman, the board had previously expressed a desire, as had the Joint Powers Authority, to have the county provide treasury and auditor services for the Joint Powers Authority, and to waive the normal indirect expenses that would be associated with that for a period of 2 years. The county auditor requested that we memorialize that in the form of an agreement, which I concur is a good idea. And so I have, in conjunction with the city administrator and the executive director of the Joint Powers Authority, drafted the agreement that you have in your packet. It's also in the pooled Joint Powers Authority meeting today for their consideration and possible approval. I'll go into whatever level of detail you would like in regard to the agreement, but I think it spells out pretty well the discussions we've already had.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Great.
And Mr. Hancock's in the audience if you have any questions.
I just want to make sure it's noted that in terms of dealing with the agreement and processing all this, there, the county point of contact is the chief executive officer with the county, not other staff. Richard's job.
And by the way, Mr. Hott has reviewed this as to form. What hadn't been reviewed since. No. But yeah.
Okay. Are there any questions for the document by board members?
I have one question. You guys can answer this, it's not relevant. But isn't there like a couple different sources of money for the pool? I mean, there's the donation stuff and then there's the stuff put up by the county and by the city. Are those going to be separate?
Yes.
Separately?
Yes.
Separately? Is that spelled out in your insufficient form? I mean, I don't know.
I think that'll be a decision of the Joint Powers Authority how they handle
The
it.
Joint Powers Board has already taken action by motions directly to those accounts. Those funding streams we can't segregate. Even though they're in one account, they're tracked independently so that they can be.
And you have a pool that pays separate in and out. So that was
be done under
Yeah.
this year.
The board did authorize the transfer of the pennies for the pool fund from the county to the Joint Powers Authority.
And I think in that action, it specified that they be maintained in terms of separate traffic.
So I think that's important.
It is. Whatever those monies get used to have to be something on, it's not to be used to pay for the staff or bureaucratic stuff. It would be paid for stuff on the ends to the pool.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could ask that the motion, if there is one, include authorization for either myself or you to execute the agreement.
I would move, Mr. Chairman, that we approve the agreement between the Honey Lake Valley Recreation Authority and the County of Lassen concerning administrative, professional, and operative services provided by the county, and authorize the county executive officer to sign on behalf of the county.
Very good. Okay. Is there any discussion from the public before we take action? Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Chair votes aye. Alrighty, we'll move to item H2, Planning Department Annual Progress Report.
Mr. Chairman, the board, I think Supervisor Hammond's request directed me to begin a process of reviewing various departments as we have time to do so. And so Maury's the lucky winner to be the first one to do so. And he's done, I think, a really good job of preparing a report that describes the activities of the department. I hope you had a chance to at least review it, if not read it. And I think it provides a really good point of discussion for prioritizing how we're going to use the resources in that department and what direction we want them to go. I think it also may provide the board with a reference for when you have constituent calls as to how the process works somewhat. And I'll let Mr. Anderson give a brief summary of the report.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. I think you did a good job summarizing. This is obviously a dynamic document. I have to first give thanks to Galen Norwood and Nancy Summers and Malcolm and the rest of the chiefs who all had their input on this. Because it's challenging to put something together about what you do while you're doing it. And we are here every Tuesday, it seems like, with, if not a majority of the agenda, a significant part of it. And that takes a lot of people doing a lot of different things. And I'm really proud of my department in that respect. They are doing more with less, and they have been since the downturn in the economy, which resulted in a corresponding diminishing FTE in our department. I mean, we don't have the building inspectors, and we don't have the planners, and we don't have the clerical support that we had in 2003. And that makes sense because the workload has diminished in a sense, but we have a lot of stuff that we do every day that didn't ever stop. And that's what has made it challenging for our group. And that's why I'm so proud of them, because they have stepped up and they keep cranking it out. And just, anyway, so love fest over to the report. As I said, this is a fairly dynamic document. There are, of course, things that I've missed and Galen's missed as topics that we could talk about or include in our ranking as issues. And so I just say that preemptively. I think what maybe I'll do is just go through each section, each division, and if you want to interrupt, ask questions, add comment, that's fine, unless the board has a better idea. I know it's a lengthy document.
It's a lengthy document. I didn't get this until this morning. You guys emailed it to me, and I didn't realize it was 50 pages. And I ran out of printer ink.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
to
again,
have this available, for me, I have to sit and read this to see what's going on in that department.
Or are you going to read it all right now?
They call me Ishmael.
Boy, I want to be able to sit and digest it and see what's really going on in here.
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is not a one-time.
No, I know. But it was a little frustrating for me to just get this morning.
It's been a challenge getting this done, along with the housing element and all the stuff with grants and loans, and it's basically 3 people. So we've been.
We could postpone this, and I'll take the blame for putting it on the agenda. I did
That's
so
the last
because
thing.
Supervisor Hammond's been very anxious to get this going, but if it's the board's pleasure, we can certainly postpone this to a future meeting.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I mean, even if we'd gotten this, last week, I mean, this is 50 pages of some very intense detail on what these guys do. And I got to say, in all the time I've sat here, I've never seen this department represented in this fashion. And I think it's great.
Me too.
This is, and I think to do justice to the discussion,
Absolutely.
I'd rather see us take, a week or two and have the chance to really digest, make our notes, and to talk about it and plan a workshop or a time certain at an upcoming meeting here. I mean, it's not going to, the earth's not coming to the end if we don't read this.
No, that's on page 49.
Oh, that's the one that didn't print.
But I would suggest that as we start gearing up, and generally May is when budgets come together in departments, and it gets to, your office and putting together a preliminary budget as a precursor to when we get into the budgetary cycle. This is a great read. And so my suggestion is, next week we're going to be up meeting in North County, and then we have our 4 counties meeting on the 29th, and then we don't meet that first week in May. But then at our first regular meeting in May, which is now would be the 13th, would be a great opportunity. It would give us sufficient time to really digest. I mean, they put a lot of work into doing this, and I think it would be healthy if we could maybe block out a half hour, 45 minutes, not sandwiched in between 2 critical items. Make it even a 1:30 afternoon type of a session type thing. I'm not sure what our schedule looks like.
Typically the first meeting of the month is pretty busy. But I know Red really wants to be here to see it.
Yeah, so I think we should give this as a going away present. Make sure she's involved in this. So
We may want to put it to the 20th.
But I was going to say, because as long as we could get to it by sometime in May, because I think having this under our belt prior to getting into budgetary stuff this summer would be, I think, well worth it.
Well,
Just in my cursory review, I got it, my hands on it Friday, and each time I pick it up and flip through and look at different sections and even go back and reread it, it's like, oh yeah, there's something else, and it's amazing.
well, I hate to keep putting it off and putting it off. I think this is critical to us to review these documents. And more, I compliment you and your staff for putting this together in short notice. And yes, I was insistent upon this. But
I compliment and blame my staff also.
I knew you didn't do it.
But
If it's good, I didn't do it. If it's bad,
there's
I
some
did.
things that I'd like to see you guys do that we've kind of gone over, such as online applications. I mean,
It's in the works. We just concluded an RFP with different software folks, and when I reviewed the software that hopefully the committee picked, I almost cried. It was like, this is what we've needed for 15 years, and so it was just, it sounds stupid, I almost cried, because I cried when my baby was born, and a few other times, but I don't know crying, but when I that was actually that was more of a moaning. Not mourning, but moaning. No, but yeah, the evolution in it's just, as you'll see in the document, it ties to GIS, it ties to, it just is all over, and so.
Well, what I like about it is how we week to week we deal with this piece, or we deal with that piece, and they're scattered all over. This here actually is the first time I've seen a comprehensive view where things are weaved together, and this piece is dependent upon that piece, and I mean, putting it into a broad concept is that, I mean, it's a impressive document.
And it's not all in the future. I really,
No.
you know, we've made great strides, and some of it is counterintuitive. Like if we were in a big pause on something, whether it be grants and loans, guidelines, whether it be policy upstairs for a building, we need consistency, which is only fair to the people that are at the counter, and that has been, in my judgment, absent. Yeah, and so it helps the planners, it helps the people, and so we have been encouraging all divisions to develop policies, and we talked about it at our last department head meeting. We as a county, and all different departments are in that kind of mode right now to establish and say what it is, what we do, and how we do it.
You know, one thing, Mario, or a couple of things. First off, that's, I was reading those articles that are right after you guys did, and I look forward to discussing that. But when I was reading that initially, it brought to attention to something I'd heard about for a while, and I think it was a brief update, and that is Hayden Hill. What's the
Hayden Hill, you know,
power line?
from our department's view, we're in the driver's seat. We have a mechanism in place should they not do the things they're supposed to do, and they are doing them. They're apparently in some kind of litigation. What stage of litigation, I don't know, with Elmed. And I'm not uncomfortable with the situation. We go out, we're going to be doing our annual inspection forever. And that's what we do, and we still have, I think, a couple $1 million in the bank that, in case they walk away, which I don't expect them to. I know that doesn't satisfy you as in terms of including whatever's going to happen with Hayden Hill, but they're not asking for any funds to be released right now, and I'm perfectly satisfied with getting the water reports every 4 times a year and just keep watching the hill.
I mean, those lines faces are really sloughing off.
Well, that doesn't mean we can't revisit what they're supposed to be doing, and if there's issues, address them. I'm just saying, I thought you meant like, are we releasing the mechanism, or what are we doing?
No, I just keep on discussing.
Right. No, and then, I will say too, the planning commission is very eager because it's mostly new planning commissioners. They'd like to go to Hayden Hill and have and now that summer's on its way, I think we should do that. And there's a lot of new supervisors that haven't seen it, so I think a field trip's in order for those that want to attend.
Yeah, look, that's not, it definitely was, I was going to suggest too, but I think we should talk about this. It's on the agenda a little bit, and then, yeah, so.
I don't say don't talk about it. I think we need to really,
Oh, yeah.
this is just an intro.
No, kudos, to you guys for this. The page 14, list high priority project schedules. And item 2 addresses the public safety airport zoning.
And you know what? Just if I might say, the postponing this discussion will be good because I think Galen and Mr. Mumper, our technician, just went to a class, a 2-day class on airport land use, and when they came back, they were pale when they thought about what we have in place right now. So that isn't a totally formulated thing right now, but that's in context to all our airport land use plans, as well as what, if anything, we want to do at the Amity site in terms of zoning and overflight zone and that kind of stuff.
Well, isn't there FAA guidelines for that? That should simplify it.
You know,
That's what it
again, on this topic, I'm a little half-cooked, but it does, preliminarily, we probably should be doing something. In terms of, even if they're doing something, we have an obligation to do something also. But, and is Galen still here? If it's just even a cursory thing that we're supposed to have an emergency management plan in place out there, I don't know. Like I said, I just talked to Galen and Kelly. They just came back from that class recently. We can report to you at the next date more in depth what, if anything, is legally required of us and what, if anything, we want to do just because we want to do it.
And that MD Airfield book, I don't know, that Felix gave to you, I kind of looked through it, I did read it. And there are some guidelines already there that the Army's going to require, and we will have to require also. In fact, Richard and I have a meeting tomorrow morning with the Sierra Army Depot, and we'll probably hammer down a lot of their issues. And
I think the point of the county's planning effort, though, would be to, in private land surrounding the runway, including our land, we want to restrict, building in the flight path.
I think it's 1,000 feet from the middle of the runway as FAA. So.
Yeah, I mean, all those things we
That's
do in
just
a little more
common sense.
detail, but, right now we don't have, the county doesn't have anything. The
Right.
feds may, but we don't, and I'm not sure Galen can speak to it better than I, that we might have a responsibility to have at least a cursory thing in place.
That's what it's looking like to me. Galen Norwood, Assistant Director. That's what it's looking like. Like Maury said, we're still kind of coming to terms with everything we learned. And actually, it was a 3-day, one of the most intense seminars I've ever been to. I mean, it was just packed with stuff. This mentioning the base here, that was literally 3 minutes, and boom, we were on. But it set me, that identified something that I have to research and look into and investigate that will take a lot of my time. And so it was just in passing. We have in California, the Public Resource Code requires development of an airport land use commission, and we have one. That's mentioned in there as well. And I believe Supervisor Hammond and Supervisor Pyle are on that. There's 7 representatives on it. The responsibility for the plan is with that body, which our 2 supervisors are members of. The zoning and the land use, then we have to be, once a plan is developed, we have to look and say, okay, is our zoning regulations compliant with this? Does it meet the general plan? Is the general plan consistent? And if we're out of compliance as far as consistency, then we have to rectify that. And so the action for procedurally, I guess it's related because we have commissioners or supervisors that are on the commission. But procedurally, it's that gets squared away first, and then the evaluation of the general plan and the zoning, and then that's the board action there that makes sure that the general plan is consistent with the airport land use plan if one is developed for that area.
And I think it was Richard or maybe Mr. Wasik that wanted us to convene the Airport Land Use Commission as it hadn't been convened. And I think since I've been here, I didn't recall it being convened. So we did that last year. We plan on reconvening this July, and this will be topics that we'll discuss.
Yeah, we should probably do that sooner.
There are a number of topics. The referral process. There's, I already have an agenda that I'm probably not going to be able to get to everything on. So we may wind up having a meeting sooner because we've just identified so many things that we need to take care of. It likely will not be a single meeting.
No, I mean, there are other peripheral topics like deferring decisions to me as staff, and those are things I want to retouch with the board and make sure that's still 25 years later the direction that the board wants to go in.
And then I had another question. I have page 21, natural resource. It talks about the Nevada groundwater monthly logs on a monthly basis, department inventories, Nevada well applications.
Mm-hmm.
So, what would those be all in a certain county, sir?
Yeah, from the top of California all the way down to Reno, we monitor the well log activity in Nevada. I used to do it for years. Now it's been assigned to Matt May, the natural resource guy who does the mining stuff as well. And basically, that's how we become aware of projects. For example, Fish Springs. That's how we became aware of that exportation project within Nevada, but our same shared groundwater. And we like to keep tabs on that. We used to, in fact, have an attorney that helped us, George Banish, helped monitor that stuff for a long time. And it was more germane during the boom when people were trying to get water rights, but it's if you're savvy, you're still doing it, and people are, and so we watch them. And we report and file protests on anything that may not make a lot of sense or looks like a grab. And we've probably filed in the last 15 years 20 protests, maybe, or
I have
more.
the same number. So that's good approximation.
Or we're both wrong.
And by the way, well, that could be too. We are reviewing those. Mr. May is reviewing all those forecasts. There's some that have been, often the state engineer doesn't rule on them for 20 years, or nothing happens. And so there have been some that have been ruled on, and things have happened. So under this category, one of the things we'd like to do is kind of have an accurate number instead of just estimating 20, and then kind of look at where the status of them is, as the engineer ruled on them.
Yes, Galen said out of the blue, we heard from George Benish just out of the blue. He's like, hey, they made a decision on something from 20 years ago. And good to know that he's still paying attention. And then, if I may go back as a topic, right above that was the Westwood Area Plan. The, as something that's bubbling, maybe simmering to the top, that we did adopt an area plan, and it really contemplated Dyer Mountain as a major component of what the land uses might be. And so what we haven't done is gone back and adopted the zoning that would make the general plan, area plan consistent with each other. And we'll be looking, and perhaps at the next meeting on this we can discuss it further, but we would like to hear from the board either we move forward with those zoning districts that match that plan, or if we want to do something else, we do something else. So we'll be looking for direction.
Yeah, what page is that?
Same page 14, right above the MD airstrip. And so I'll continue to dodge bullets at my feet, or I can go through this whatever you want to do.
Yeah, if there's no other questions of the board, that'd be good to.
I had one I'd like to, on page 28, dealing with the business licenses. And the narrative is that the department will be informed about businesses after they've gotten themselves established, and an issue would crop up in a lot of times because there wasn't prior consultation, what they're doing and how they're doing it sometimes are out of sync with what the codes require. And so the suggestions being made is that we consider as a county to establish having a business license at the front end of it to allows that interaction between the prospective business and the regulatory powers when it comes to making sure that the business is set up at least properly in terms of its facility.
And I would just say, I'm not necessarily advocating it, I'm just bringing it up for a topic, because I know implementing that would be a challenge, because it ends up that it's not just issuing a business license, it's like, does that structure that you're proposing to do it in meet that kind of code for the building code? And so it becomes a very big and complicated thing to administer, not as easy as necessarily in the city, but even the city, I'm sure, has its challenges implementing a business license.
Well, if I could just comment on that briefly, because I think that's the concern I have, is once you establish the procedure, now you have this administrative procedure, and the incentive for those who are now administering the program, because it's their job and it's their income, there isn't a lot of, there's been several attempts at the city to kind of revamp their city ordinance for business licenses go back to the 50s. So it's like 60, 70 years old. And some of the definitions they have for the types of business when they were established back in the 50s reflected the economy that maybe was around in the early 1900s. And when I went to establish my business by 1980, it was my kind of business, copying and mailing type services didn't exist in the 50s. They didn't have copy machines like they do now. And so I wound up being in what they call other. They had like 56 categories, and 57 is like other. And when you look at their definitions, but the cost of administering that program, has become, instead of you pay your business license and mine's a small fee, so I pay it once a year, but I get a quarterly, statement telling me what the status is of my, business licenses, which, the record clearly shows it's for the pay for the